Have a look inside yourself. Is alcohol a depressant? Understand why it matters. Hello, enlightenment enthusiast. Welcome back to Have a Look Inside. Join the ride, fellow hitchhiker. Flash that thumb with a like and subscribe to never miss a stop. As depression rates continue to climb in many parts of the world, mental health professionals continue to look at external factors in hopes of understanding why. Some such explanations have included the proliferation of social media use and its impact on users and observers alike. Environmental stressors, increased societal polarity on political and social issues, and higher instances of isolation and loneliness that began for many individuals during the pandemic. But another connection that behavioral scientists have been looking at is any association between increased instances of alcohol consumption and increased rates of depressive episodes and symptoms. What are depressants? To understand such connections, it's important to know how depressants work. Research shows that depressants affect one's central nervous system by reducing feelings of stimulation or arousal in users while also slowing down or interfering with messages between their brain and body. Examples of depressants include sleeping pills, alcohol, and opioids such as illegal drugs like heroin or legal ones like OxyContin, Vicodin, or morphine. Sometimes medications such as benzodiazepines or barbiturates that have been designed to slow brain activity in an attempt to treat anxiety, seizures, or panic disorders are also considered depressants. There remains some debate between academics on that point. When it comes to depressants like drugs or alcohol, such substances often release neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine when they first hit the body. Initially, this results in a euphoric high, says Norman Rosenthal, MD, a clinical professor of psychiatry at Georgetown University Medical School. But that sense of euphoria quickly diminishes and a rebound effect occurs, he explains. This often leads to feelings of depression or anxiety in many users. Do depressants cause depression? In this way, depressants can cause depression symptoms. But with a couple noted exceptions, they don't usually create the mental health condition in the user in the first place. Depressants don't cause depression, but they may make a person feel disinterested and slow down cognitively, explains Natalie Christine Dadalo, PhD, a clinical and health psychologist and founder of Priority Wellness based in Boston, Massachusetts. It's also worth noting a correlation and causation issue here in that substance abuse and diagnosed depression often coexist in many people, which can make it hard to pinpoint where one problem ends and another begins. Data reveals that 27% of people with major depressive disorder also have a drug addiction, says Jamaica Woody Cooper, PhD, a psychologist and adjunct professor at Webster University in Missouri. In other words, depressants can both lead to feelings of depression while also making matters worse for people already battling clinical depression. Is alcohol a depressant? It may be helpful to understand how alcoholic in particular can affect these feelings. Alcohol is known as a depressant because it slows down brain and nervous functioning, explains Rosenthal. In addition, alcohol can depress the levels of mood-regulating neurotransmitters in the brain, such as serotonin and norepinephrine, he adds. Such effects aren't always immediate, however. Issues can and often do build over time. While a single drink can have both stimulant, anti-anxiety, and sedative effects, the sedative effects become more prominent as people drink more heavily, notes John Crystal, MD, a professor of psychiatry, neuroscience, and psychology at Yale Department of Psychiatry. In this way, it's believed that alcohol use is one of the few depressants that can lead to depression in some users when consumed in high amounts. Persistent heavy drinking, particularly alcohol use disorder, increases the risk for depression, Crystal says. Even absent clinical depression, however, Dattilo notes that moderate amounts of alcohol consumption also slows down the system, which can lead to feelings of melancholy in some users. Is any amount of alcohol safe? It depends on your taste for risk. In recent years, scientists have debated how much alcohol is safe for the average person to drink. There's no question that too much is unhealthy, but what counts as too much is still being debated. Experts in alcohol-related diseases don't want to stop people from having fun. They often come down on the side of less is better. Any alcohol at all carries some risk. Others, mostly those who focus on population-level data for their research, say there's still a benefit to moderate drinking. It comes down to how much risk you are willing to take for that Budweiser, glass of red wine, or gin and tonic. If you're okay with being potentially at risk, then you responsibly drink a small amount of alcohol, said breast cancer oncologist Dr. Marlene Myers of NYU Langone Health. If you're 100% risk-averse, then you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't go in the sun. You keep your body weight down. Exercise, Eat well, she continued. It's an individual choice. On the flip side, there is some social benefit to relaxing and having a drink, as long as people can control their consumption, said Eric Rim, an epidemiologist at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. To have people feel scared and deny them that drink, I think we're doing them a disservice by freaking everybody out, he said. What's the scientific debate? It's not possible for studies to determine what level of alcohol is unambiguously safe. It wouldn't be realistic or ethical to randomly assign one group of people to drink regularly for decades and another group to abstain. Also, many factors impact why someone might drink heavily, moderately, or not at all, which might also lead them toward or away from other healthy lifestyle factors. It makes it hard to figure out whether it's alcohol or lifestyle or some combination that contributes to their well-being. Researchers are left with studies modestly flawed in different ways and new data that contradicts older findings. Rim's work revolves around analyzing such data. He helped write the USDA Dietary Guidelines for Americans, which recommends that for those who choose to drink, men consume no more than 2 drinks a day on any drinking day, and women no more than 1. He remains convinced, based on 40 years of research, that level is fine, and even healthy. Yes, people will likely get more benefit from an hour of exercise than a glass of wine, but alcohol will somewhat reduce the risk of blood clots and improve glucose control, he said. That's why you bleed more if you nick yourself shaving the morning after having a drink or 2. It's also why he thinks it's probably better to drink small amounts 5 nights a week rather than just more on weekends, because it will keep alcohol's benefits consistent in the bloodstream. George Koop, who directs the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, also stands by the American guidelines, though he notes they are currently under review. More and more studies, he said, show that drinking even a small amount increases the risk for cancer. 5% of cancers are causes by alcohol. In January, the Canadian government issued new guidelines encouraging people to cut their drinking. Health risks from drinking are low for people who have 2 drinks or less per week. Moderate for those who consume between 3 and 6 drinks per week, and increasingly high for those who drink 7 or more per week, according to the new guidelines. Binge drinking is also dangerous, the report concluded. Consuming more than 2 standard drinks per drinking occasion is associated with an increased risk of harms to self and others, including injuries and violence. Specialists in liver disease, oncology, and cardiology, among others, argue there's no totally safe level of alcohol. Any benefit that you see from heart disease and diabetes, it's weighed by the increased risk of cancer, said Dr. Brian Lee, a liver specialist at the Keck School of Medicine of the University of Southern California. There's no alcohol that can improve your health, and probably any alcohol use is harmful. Heavy drinking is unhealthy for everyone. All the experts agree that heavy drinking, more than 1 drink a day for women and 2 for men, presents serious health risks. The problem that we haven't recognized is what is the excessive amounts of alcohol that definitely leads to problems, Koop said. His organization offers a treatment navigator to help people with drinking problems. Heavy drinking can cause all sorts of health problems, including liver disease, some types of cancer, heart attack, stroke, and an increased risk of accidents such as falls and car crashes. Some evidence suggests alcohol can exacerbate the effects of dementia, Koop said. In Massachusetts, alcohol accounted for 1 in 20 deaths, roughly 3,000 in 2019. Heavy drinking also costs the public money. David Jernigan, a Boston University School of Public Health professor of health law, policy, and management, recently told Massachusetts legislators. In 2010, the most recent data available, problem drinking cost the state government $345 per person, he said, while alcohol taxes generated only 11. Did you try dry January? Here's how to keep healthy habits going all year. Medications and psychotherapy can help people with alcohol use disorder remain sober for the 2 to 5 years needed to dramatically reduce the risk of relapse, said Dr. David Stream, a psychiatrist and medical director of the Cleveland Clinic's Alcohol and Drug Recovery Center. Beverage companies and others are recognizing the need to provide alcohol alternatives, selling mocktails and opening dry bars, Koop said. There's Dry January, Sober October, and even a section in the Green Bay Packers' Lambeau Field for those who want to avoid alcohol. I see a shift to people wanting to engage with alcohol in a healthier way, he said. 1 drink a day? Dr. Henry R. Kranzler directs the Center for Studies of Addiction at the University of Pennsylvania's Perelman School of Medicine. He's also a wine lover. His research suggests that drinking more than about 1 drink a day, for both men and women, is associated with lower white and gray matter in the brain. In other words, people who drink much more than that may have cognitive problems. The more you drink, the more health risk you incur, he said. Low levels, like a drink a day on average or less, is probably not meaningfully increasing your risk. Kranzler keeps his own red wine consumption below this. I drink 3 or 4 times a week and I have 1 or 1.5 glasses of wine. I'm not concerned that's adversely affecting my health. 1 drink per day increases the risk for heart attack, stroke, and death by about 10% to 20%. But Dr. Stanley Hazen, who specializes in preventive cardiovascular medicine at the Cleveland Clinic, thinks it's the sweet spot for the heart. 2 drinks increase the danger. By 3 drinks, you're at more than double the risk, he said. It's the same magnitude as having diabetes, the role of genetics. Alcohol has been part of human life likely at least since people started cultivating crops, said Dr. Victor Karpiak, a psychiatrist who studies the genetics of alcoholism at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Still, some people are more sensitive to alcohol's effects than others. Rather than trying to apply a one-size-fits-all approach, you need to consider a more personalized point of view, he said. Between 15% and 25% of white people carry a genetic risk for alcohol abuse, showing a greater response to alcohol, Stream said. Less than 5% of Black Americans have the same genetic mutation. People of Asian descent often carry a gene that protects against alcoholism by causing the person to flush or feel sick with the first few sips. They lack a protein that normally breaks down a toxic breakdown product of alcohol, Kranzler said. For someone with an alcohol use problem, the only safe level of drinking is none, Stream said. Someone with a family history of alcohol use disorder also should avoid all alcohol. We know there's a lot of genetic risk that is carried from one generation to the next. Even if you only have one parent or one side of the family that has significant substance use history, he said. Men whose fathers had a drinking problem are at highest risk and shouldn't drink at all. Once you have a genetic proclivity to develop the disorder, there's only one missing piece, and that's exposure to the substance, Stream said. Compared to men, women are more likely to avoid alcohol entirely or drink less. But women who do drink excessively develop more medical problems. Karpiak's review of contemporary research has found. Still, genetic makeup contributes about 50% to 60% of vulnerability to alcohol use disorder, Karpiak said, with environmental factors making up the balance. How to find the right amount for you. A safe level of alcohol is going to be different for everyone, depending on their personal risks and tolerance. A woman who consumes the same amount of alcohol as a man likely will have a higher blood alcohol concentration, Kranzler said. It's because women tend to be lighter than men and tend to have lower lean body mass, which determines how alcohol is distributed in the body and its concentration in the brain. People also tend to have less lean body mass as they age, so an older person will reach a high blood alcohol concentration faster than a young one, he said. Drinkers also develop tolerance, so a person who consumes alcohol regularly will be less impacted by that first drink than a teetotaler, Kranzler said. Starting to drink at a young age also increases risk for drinking problems later on, as does being exposed to marijuana before age 14. It's important for parents to explain this risk to young adolescents, especially those with a family history of alcohol problems. Just as some kids can't eat peanuts because of allergies, others shouldn't drink or use marijuana at an early age because they are already at higher risk than their friends, Stream said. Unfortunately, Myers said, medicine is not yet to the point where a doctor can identify each person's individual risk. There will always be people who live to 100 eating bacon, drinking whiskey, and smoking every day. But it's not possible to identify those lucky few early in life. Until then, she said, the only guidance people have is from population-level data suggesting what you can do to bring your odds down. Well, that's all, folks. Stay safe until the next video. In the meantime, and as always, leave a comment or two and letting us know what you think. Thank you for watching Have a Look Inside. Until next time, happy living. Visit MeggDigital.com.